Did you know the iPhone 14 Pro Max is actually a 2-layer motherboard sandwich? So we have this already separated, which we did last week on my live stream, which was launch day. And today we gotta solder this back together and get it fully working. And if you saw the live stream, you saw when I added a SIM slot to the USA model. So let's see if the SIM slot also works, because I'd be curious to see what happens. So hi, I'm Jesse from ZXW Board Repairs. Let's go ahead and get started with trying to manually reball this because it's a brand new device. There's no stencils for it. So we're gonna do a whole manual process and see if we can get this working. All right, so currently I have just the top board, battery, and screen. Nothing else. You can see there's the CPU, the battery, and the device turns on and functions. Touch works. Now, one of the things about the 14 series is that the Wi-Fi chip is on the top board, so Wi-Fi is not grayed out. But you can see up here it says no service. So it says no service because the baseband cellular chip is on this side, so it's not gonna work. But once we reball it, the goal is to get this working. So this is what the bottom side of the top board looks like. So in case you ever need to reference this in the future, you can use this video. Like for example, you wanna see where a specific component is. Looks like there's some crud here. Right, so PMIC, this looks like the Hydra Kraken chip. It looks like maybe charging IC. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure of the other ones. This is the CPU. This might be the camera driver or PMU. I don't know what that is. I don't know the rest. And then on the other side, just the connectors. So this is the NAND, the memory, and this is the Wi-Fi chip. So this is why Wi-Fi was not grayed out when we had the device tested with just the top board. So goal is here to reball it. And in the past, what I've had good luck with, especially when the 12s first came out and there was also no stencils. So what I would do is just manually tin each pad by hand and then essentially squish the two layers together. So being that when you hand reball something, essentially just tin the pads, the solder on both sides is barely enough for them to make contact, but it's enough to make contact. So what happens is you can like press down and squish it together without any negative repercussions. By the way, this heater is currently set to 130-ish, and the goal is to just kind of warm up the board. When the board is warm, it allows you to spread this flux very easily. So the goal is to do that first. There's some lint here, or maybe dog hair. All right, let's see if we can be successful today. Like I said, I have had success in the past with this technique, and it's a very similar design, so I don't see why it wouldn't work here. All right, yeah, so 130 Celsius. I'm using the X360 V2, which I will link down below in the video description, as well as all the rest of my tools I use in today's video. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the like button as well if you're enjoying these type of videos, and subscribe. That'd be great. All right, so what I've done in the past, now this is just trial and error kind of thing, is I use regular leaded solder, which is temperature rated for essentially 183 Celsius. This is kind of the solder used on almost anything. So my thought process is basically 183 on the top board and then 138 on the bottom board. One main reason why I like to use 183 on the top board is the solder wire. So being that I have no, at least for the 12 series, I had no heater for the top board. So this one has rosin core, has a rosin core. Essentially has flux within the wire itself. That's why when you put some solder, you see that smoke come out. All right, I'm starting to burn a little bit there, but I'll come back to that. Essentially the goal here is to tin all the pads. Now this technique is just for the current situation in that there's no reballing stencil. Once the stencils and everything come out, then I'm gonna figure out how to use them, and let me know down below if you want me to make a new video when the tools come out for it, because you better believe this sandwich model is going to have sandwich issues. Literally every iPhone that's sandwich design has issues. So whether it's depending on the model, the issue may vary, but no touch, no service, no Wi-Fi. It'll like freeze on the pin code, like a million different things. On iPhone 11, a sandwich issue can cause 3-minute restarts. So, I mean, I understand the whole concept of a smaller motherboard, from Apple's point of view. And I don't know, like Apple customers, they're very loyal. So even though their iPhones have a lot of troubles, I fix a lot of motherboard issues on iPhones, they still keep going back and buying the same company who makes products that fail. Although the question is it just standard rate of failure, and there are just so many that you're just the percentages at that scale that there's just that many. Let's say the failure rate is 1% or 2%, 3%. That percentage over millions of these sold. But Apple has had devices that had like signature failures, like it was just a bad design from Apple. So sadly, there's no real way to get a statistics on that, like how many. Like for example, iPhone 7 had an audio IC issue. So how many iPhone 7s did Apple sell, and how many had audio IC? There's no way to know that other than just what comes into your own shop. Alright, so I pretty much tinned all these. Now we'll need to go back. I'll put this on a board holder now that I got most of it. Actually, let me add some flux now while it's still warm. I do got to touch up some spots like here. I do see some pads here that are a little weird looking. But yeah, I mean, Apple obviously knows their signature faults, because they do get a lot of these devices back under warranty while they're still in the warranty period. And like you can tell, for example, iPhone 6 Plus had touch disease, and the 6S, the next generation, sure enough, the touch IC that was causing the issues is no longer on the motherboard. They just put that on the screen now. And same for audio IC. On iPhone 7, it was in one spot, and iPhone 8 is slightly in a different spot. iPhone 10, well actually iPhone 10 and 10s, they're pretty much identical. I mean, there's still issues with them, but I don't know how much they learned off of that model. I'm just gonna use my tweezer to hold the board down while I prep these pads. I'd be curious to see what those, Apple internal meetings are like, where, the engineers are talking with the, with the bosses, like, what's up with all these issues. The product team. Like, how do we, well, they don't even explain their issue. Unless it's a giant recall, then they do come up with some kind of marketing, like a nice way to say, like, oops, we screwed up. Oh yeah, iPhone 7 had a no service issue that was really bad. Like, it seemed like almost every single one is gonna experience it, especially the Qualcomm model. So yeah, they changed that design as well. Also, they changed designs within the same model. So I've seen iPhone 6 Plus where the M1 jumper is like literally that trace is redesigned. So while it's still in production, they've tweaked the design because of those issues. How do I see? They didn't tweak the design, but they did add underfill on a lot of them that I've come across here. So that's interesting as well, because they do sell these phones for a few years before they discontinue them. All right, so now it's time to clean this. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on this. And I do reply to literally every comment, so don't be afraid to comment. I read every single one. And if you guys have any suggestions on my soldering skills, feel free to chime in. I know I'm not perfect, and there's always room for improvement. Alright, let's see if I could get the last piece cleaned up. We want these solder joints nice and shiny. Alright, so let's do close-up inspection. So these look a little dry in that, like, not as much solder as some of the other ones. I'm also checking for any bumped components or anything like that. This pad looks a little big, but I think that's ground because it's over the screw post. Now I'll link to these swabs down below as well. One of our students from the ProFixer program I teach in, he suggested them. Originally I was like skeptical, being that they're like fake cotton, but they actually work really good, and they're small too, so they can clean really. They're soft, so you can get into all the little crevices, and they're small, so you can also get into a lot of crevices. And they're cheap. There's like, I think like 200 of them for like $10, I think. Actually, not that cheap, but this is why you should charge higher prices than some people, because there is cost to this. New tools, like for example, when I got my iPhone 13 series sandwich jig, that was like $300, I think almost $400. Then when I had to get this heater right here was, I think like 100 something. I bought a few different stencils, different designs, and these tools add up. So this is why the prices are what they are. We do have to invest a lot in like tools that we sometimes don't end up using long term because they suck. So plus tons of hours, practicing, experimenting. We are risking, your phone. It's an expensive phone, so it's all priced in. All right, so I got flux all around the edges, and now here's the tricky part. I'm going to switch my soldering iron tip to the conical, so the little pointy one, and because I don't want to get solder on the edges, just within the solder joints. So be real gentle. Now see, this solder is very weird because it's not rosin core, so it makes it real hard to. There you go. So now we got a giant blob. Plus this thing keeps moving. I'm trying to think of a way to keep it steady. Let me just put my steel block there, see if that helps a little bit. The goal is to tin all these pads with the low melt 138, which of course I will link down below in the video description. Any of these links that I put down below, most of them will be affiliate links, which means I will get a tiny commission off each purchase made through that link. Now, it costs nothing extra to you. Just the seller takes a minor loss on it because they do get their store promoted. So this is a win-win for everyone. You get to support, creators like myself by using these links. The seller of the tools or products gets essentially advertising for their company. I get a small commission for promoting that product. But these are all products I use. Pretty much anything you see me recommend, I use it. Now, I make some videos on stuff that I don't use, but I do say when they send me the tools. And then plus you see me making videos, so you can see what tools I'm physically using as well. So, and if you ever have any questions, you can always drop them in the comments, like, oh, what heater do you use now, or what soldering iron is that, or for example, this Action T3B iron, it was sent to me for free in exchange for a review. I've heard about it, I've kind of seen it around, but didn't really look too much into it, so I figured why not, and now it's my full-time soldering iron. I literally have put away my Hakko $600+ soldering iron for this $150 one. I just like the tips, how quick you can swap them out. It works really well. As you can see here, pretty much can get I could get the job done. Plus my working area here is a little tight in space, so instead of having two separate irons, a micro pencil and a large iron, I now have just one stand where I can quickly swap tips because of the design. So that's kind of my thought process on this, is that the iron was much more convenient, so I switched to it. All right, so I've turned off the heater. I'm now going to clean this side of the board as well. And I do have to be careful because since it's 138 solder, it does melt at a lower point. So the heater has to be colder now to colder so the solder doesn't kind of just wipe away. We want it in a solid state, not in a liquid state. So if the temperature of the solder reaches 138, the solder will turn into a liquid instead of a solid. This C1 solder joint here is kind of sticking out, although it does look like ground. All right. So this is visual inspection. I don't know what's going on here. It's like just a little dirty. And good news is I didn't get much solder around the edges. I do see some right here. And there's like tiny little random spots, so that's good. That means I was able to get good control of my soldering iron in the process. You know, it just looks cleaner as well. All right, so before I do that, let's talk about the SIM slot. And by that, I mean before I move on to the next step, let's talk about the SIM slot. So if you saw my live stream, I soldered on a SIM slot from a 13 Pro Max. It's the exact same size, the pinouts match up, and I was doing a little bit of research, you know, on iPhone 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max. So there's a chip here, I believe is this one. Essentially, what is called the vinyl IC. It is the chip that handles eSIM, and this model has a SIM slot for. You know, if you get the standard USA version, you have the device handles a SIM and an eSIM. So essentially, if you want to convert it to dual SIM, which, you know, some regions back when they were selling these had a dual SIM version. So the SIM slot would have two slots. Basically, it had a SIM slot that can put SIMs on both sides, and you insert it, and then the device can connect to both networks. And in order to convert a USA model to a dual SIM, you essentially had to obviously swap out the SIM slot so it can read both SIMs at the same time, but also you had to remove the eSIM IC. And then they did a jumper on these pads here. So based on that, I try to kind of compare that to the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but that one has a SIM slot on a separate, it's a whole separate module that you can manually swap out. So that was useless. And then the 13 Pro Max, you know, one of the pins that I saw on the 11 Pro Max that kind of connected to the eSIM chip that went through here, that went to SIM slot, was the SIM detect line. And then essentially that pin that kind of connects to the eSIM, that same pin on the 13 Pro Max will connect basically to this IC. So I think on the 13 Pro Max, this IC is the eSIM, although it looks way different than the 11 Pro Max. I wonder if that's the eSIM chip, because the layout of the chip is very similar on ZXW. It connects to that same pin here. So it kind of all, like, if you just kind of think about it and try to reverse engineer it, it kind of makes sense. Now the question is, where is that eSIM here on this board? You know, could it be this one? Could it be this one? I'm just guessing. You know, these are very similar designs. So 13 Pro Max here on top, you can see how they both have like the little antenna thing on the top, and this one just like a 13 Pro Max, except it cuts off early. 13 Pro Max, see how it has this extra area. So essentially it kind of pushed everything this way and made it all fit. And they both have like this little like peninsula here as well. And the batteries are interchangeable apparently. I just saw a video from Reball where they swap the batteries and it works, and it's like it's a perfect fit. So knowing all that, the question is which chip is the eSIM chip? There's no board views, there's nothing. You just have to go off of experience and kind of try to reverse engineer this. So technically, if I remove the chip and try to probe the pin, the SIM detect pin on the board, and try to find continuity under this chip, maybe that'll work. Maybe if I just pull it. Actually, looking underneath, the BGA layout is way different. This looks like a full, grid chips, whereas on the 11 Pro Max and some of the other ones, it was different design. So for now, I'm not gonna mess with it any further. But if you guys have any ideas or suggestions, or if you guys have the model with a SIM slot and you guys can split the sandwich, see if you could spot what is different between the international version and the USA version. So obviously we can't see under the shields, and I'm not going to remove the shield. I don't want to risk damaging this board. There's like this IC, and maybe it's this one right here. If you look closely, it says ST33J. If we look at the 11 Pro Max, oh yeah, look at that. Maybe it's this one. Very similar naming scheme. ST33G1M2. So I think I found it. Alright, let's go take a look on the computer. Alright, so this is the pin I was talking about. Let's see. Actually, SIM2 clock. SIM2 reset. VDD SIM2. SIM2 data. So essentially, if you follow this through this resistor, it ends up here on eSIM. So this is the eSIM chip. I thought it was called vinyl. Where did I see vinyl? Pretty sure I saw that on the schematics. And then they also jumpered this SIM detect here. So essentially you short this across, so you essentially put a jumper from this pad to this pad. I guess this will connect the second SIM to the circuit so it can detect that a SIM was inserted. This is the eSIM. And then if you compare that to the 13, so you can see 13 Pro Max right now, ZXW does not have any net names or component names or anything, so it's just generic kind of labeling. You can see, so you compare this chip here to this one here. It's very similar, right? It's very spaced out. There's 4 on this side and 3 on this side. This one's very similar, 4 on this side and 3 on this side. And if we click on this pad here, yeah, if I connect on this one, actually it should be this one. Yeah, so let's go back. So there's a ground and an NC. So the second one here is the one that goes to the eSIM through here to here. And if you look up, if you compare this, so there's a ground here, so the opposite of that ground on that chip, I suspect, is the eSIM, right? There's a ground here, so the opposite corner. If you connect through here, look at that, connects to this pin. So seems like it's related or very similar kind of. Yeah, see, so the other pin connects to this side. So this one connects to through this resistor. Wait, where is it at? To the SIM slot. This pin here also connects through this resistor to the SIM slot. So it would make sense this has to do something with the SIM slot, which could be the eSIM. And being that, if we go back over here, and then if we look at this chip, ST33G1M2, this is 11 Pro Max, known eSIM, 13 Pro Max. This is slightly different than ZXW. I wonder if it's somewhere else. Or maybe this model does not support eSIM. Well, it doesn't match. Right, this says ZD0. Well, maybe it's covered. Yeah, it doesn't match. It says ZD0. It does say ST. ST. So maybe they just changed kind of maybe the chip type. And then here's the 14 Pro Max. And look at the ST33. Hold on, let me clean it again. Yeah, so you see the ST at the bottom right. ST on the bottom right. Now ST is a chip maker. So, I mean, wouldn't be surprised if there are multiple chips with that same design. You know, ST on this one. So, I have two options here. One, solder the sandwich together and see if it works. Two, desolder, well actually just remove the eSIM and see if it works. I wonder if there's the resistor that would need to be jumped somehow. Oh man, wonder. Sad part is there's no board views for even me to try to reverse engineer it. You know, if there was a board view, I could do it like I did on the 13 Pro Max and kind of just click around and try to match up based on known information. But yeah, let me know if you're have the international model with the working SIM slot. Does it have this chip installed? And also, is there any resistors missing or installed anywhere on here that your model has and mine doesn't? If you guys want to collaborate, let me know. We do have my Facebook group, which would be a perfect place to post about it. It is the phone repair community on Facebook. Just search for it, or it's linked down below in the video description. Yeah, so maybe there'd be a resistor, you know, on the international model here, or here, or here, here. There's like a million spots. You know, Apple or any electronics company, they'll design in some components and chips and stuff, and then when they go to make it, they decide not to for whatever reason. So there's a lot of, these are called no stuff, essentially empty pads. These are like known missing components from the factory. Alright, so let's just try it as is and see what happens. The main goal is really to just sandwich this back together. Alright, so what we're gonna do is add flux. you know, the board is back to room temperature, so it's not going to not easily able to spread this flux. So as the heater warms up, it is set to 130 like before. This is just so it gets warm, so I can spread this flux. Now, one thing I didn't do is wick the board. So it does have the original factory solder kind of mixed in with all this. So let's see how that affects this, if at all. But yeah, now the board is getting warm. You can see how I can easily spread the flux. So now it's hit 130 Celsius. By the way, if you're watching this way into the future and you have an issue with no service or some other issue, my website is right there down below, vccboardrepairs.com. If you need a repair, just let me know. Send us a message and we can quote you right away, give you a very accurate estimate. It's pretty rare where we have to re-quote you once we get the device. If we quote you something, we can most likely get it fixed in that same price range. Alright, I've added flux everywhere. Now, one thing I should probably do is probably should heat up the bottom board until I see at what point does it melt. But let's just go ahead and just skip that step. Alright, so now let's try to align it. So good way to align it is use known aligned stuff. So like right here, you can see the circle inside is not lined up with the circle above it. So I'll just push it into an alignment. You can see that kind of red goldish color here. That means the board is too much on this side and we need to push it downwards. So pushing on the opposite side is the best way to do this. So I'll push on the other side a little bit. Here you can see it's way misaligned. Alright, so pretty much have it perfectly aligned. Okay, aligned. Okay, pretty much. Oh yeah, look at that. It keeps offsetting. So I gotta do it somewhere else. You know what? I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna turn up the temperature to 195. And as the board heats up, the solder will start melting. And I think there's probably like a solder joint that's probably pushing, misaligning everything. So once we melt the solder a little bit, it should allow me to just push it within the melted solder versus, you know, like right now it's just teeter-tottering and doesn't align. So I'm going to look at it from the side. Alright, so I'm trying to line it up. Alright, we're at 187 temperature. I can see the smoke starts coming out. Alright, let's see if I could align this now. Yeah, look at that. Now I have this aligned. There's nothing there to visually match. This is almost aligned. I just need to push it down a little bit. All right, it keeps misaligning. Also, one thing I haven't mentioned this whole time is there's a 5G millimeter wave antenna that's still soldered on, so we do have to kind of work around that. In the US, it has this for the super fast 5G speeds in selected areas, and in Europe and everywhere else, they don't have this, so they don't have those antennas. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually just push down. All right, so this looks almost aligned. You know what? I think it needs more flux, so I'm just gonna feed it from the side. And at this, like right now, I do wish I had a wide angle scope camera so you guys can see better. By the way, I do envy the international iPhone 12, 13s, and now 14s because this antenna is so inconvenient. You have to take out the battery to get the motherboard out, and it just adds, you know, unnecessary steps on my end. But what can you do? You know, this is just the part of the job. Gotta adapt. And learn. All right, what I'm gonna do is, it looks like it's been here for a good amount of time. I've pressed down everywhere I can to help potentially, you know, solder any solder joints together. So hopefully the solder joints from the bottom board and the top board have combined into one connection, and that will hopefully get us a working device. So one trick is when I want to get this off a heater, I just use my tweezers and go into the SIM slot, which if you don't have a custom iPhone 14 Pro Max with the SIM slot, then you can't really do that on this model. But on other models like iPhone 10, 10s, 10s Max, iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro. No, not the iPhone 11. iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. And now 13 and 14. Oh, 13. 14 if you're in Europe somewhere, or Canada, or anywhere else besides the great USA. All right, so now we wait and we cool it down. So I'll be right back. All right, so this has now reached room temperature. Let's take a look. Don't mind the ugly colors. Okay, so it's semi-soldered. All right, let's take a look at the other side. Now it is nice that this board does not protrude too much on one side, so we could flip it on its side and look. All right, so yeah, it seems like only this part there's a gap. So let me show you guys a little trick on how to close this gap. So get some large set of tweezers, especially if they're like curved like this, and then put the board in between. If anything, you could also grab a little steel block for some support. And essentially, we hot air and squeeze. So these are my kind of thicker tweezers. And I'm going to use my hot air at 380 Celsius and 45% air in my add-in hot air station. Essentially, we're just going to manually squish this back down together. It looks like the board is warped. So that's why. If it's on the heater, it's going to heat everything and it's just going to teeter-totter. I push down on this side, the other side is going to lift. Push down on the other side, this side is going to lift. So you do is just hit it from the side with hot air. And you'll see you'll be able to start squeezing. Oh wait, I'm slightly out of focus, sorry about that. Let's do it again. I didn't get this side. So essentially I'm squeezing with my tweezers so it closes the gap. Now I did get full with flux, so I can't really see what's going on in there. What I can do is while I'm still squeezing, wet my Q-tip and try to clean. By when I mean wet the Q-tip, I mean put some alcohol on your cotton swab thing. Let's see if you can wipe it down. Now it is a plastic swab, but surprisingly it works really well, especially in these high heat use cases. I mean, it does kind of fall apart easy, but very important to clean your work as best you can. I understand you can't always get it perfectly clean, but at least try. I've seen some boards just come like flux just caked on, and like gotta spend extra time just trying to clean it. Okay. All right. So you can see how we've closed that gap. There's like something shiny here, but nothing. Just a reflection of the lights. You can see all the solder joints here look nice and flat. All right, so actually I'm feeling pretty confident. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to test the board with the DT880. This is like a mini DC power supply, and we'll be able to see if there's a short on the motherboard. So first have it off so we have 0 volts. Plug in the mechanic iBoots cable for iPhone 13. It also works for the 14. So if you saw my live stream, you would have known that. So now we push power. Okay, no shorts on the main lines. Now let's try to prompt to boot using the power button pin. And looks like there's a short. See how that jumped up all the way to 400 something? That is not normal behavior. So take a look at the green number, the amps. Push the power button and look, there's a short. So let's get my thermal camera and see what the issue is. All right, so there's definitely a short in here somewhere. You can see, so that's not good. So you can see there's a short here somewhere in this area, which looks to be inside the sandwich. So let's separate this again and see what's going on. So before we get started, the heat was in this area. So I want to inspect here from the side. So you can see the solder balls are very tiny and they're not low chance of it bridging. So I wonder if maybe I bumped something, or I don't know, maybe there's a stray piece of something. So I put my heater back to the 200-ish temperature. This should be enough to allow me to split the sandwich. So I'm going to get my tweezers ready while this reaches the temp, the desired temp. All right, so we're about to reach the temperature setting here on the heater. So I'm pushing from the sides. I do see flux kind of oozing around. So I feel like it's going to be ready to split. I am pressing down on the board. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one tweezer pushing down on here. The other tweezer, I'm going to come in from this opposite side. Let me see which side works best. Okay, so I'm going to do it here on this bottom side. Just insert a tweezer and then lift it up, rotate it, and let it go. I'm going to turn off the heater as well. Let's see, what can we have shorted? This all looks normal, and the heat was in this area. All I can think of is maybe some of these solder joints were a little too big. They do look a little bigger than the rest. Maybe they shorted something in ground. It could also be, you know, there's a large pad next to a small pad. Visually, you know what? I think I know what it is. When I was prepping the pads, I bumped into this thing right here. There's a stick of solder kind of sticking out. Let me see if I can wick it down. Like I saw it, I'm like, okay, let me finish what I was doing and then I'll come back to it. And of course, I forgot. Alright, so I'm just using some wick. And just real quick on my multimeter, I'm just going to check if it's shorted to ground. I'm going to touch some metal IC. Yeah, no shorts. So I think that was it. I might be able to just get away with it and squish this back down as is. That must be it, because take a look. So the heat was somewhere around here, and where I messed up was here. So I guess it makes sense that I picked the wrong spot. All right, so I'll be honest, I'm not I think I'm gonna have to just redo this real quick. Same process, 138 on the bottom, 183 on the top, and cross my fingers. All right, pop quiz, or not pop quiz. How about a fun game? What time do you think it is right now when I'm filming this video? Let me know that down below in the comments. I guess an estimate, because I'm not gonna remember exact timing. Or I'll say it later in the video. So once I finish prepping these pads, I'll let you guys know what time it is right now. But try to guess, what time am I recording this? By the way, I have the heater off right now. Just the residual heat. That is keeping the board hot enough for me to prep all these pads. And it's nice because when it's real hot like this, the solder flows so nice with the low melt stuff. And there's a lot of flux already on here. Here, so you guys can see up close. Like, it tends to leave real even solder balls. Oops, I got some on the edges. So I guess you can say I'm the first ever to get solder on the edges of this interposer, because I haven't seen anyone else split these. Alright, I got that one. And this one goes with some of that other solder. Alright, let me turn this back on a little bit. Let's do 145, just a little bit hotter than last time, so it can also flow real smooth. By the way, before I try to re-sandwich it back, I'm going to test it one more time, make sure that short is gone before I forget. And this time, I'll try not to get solder on a surrounding capacitor. I'm going to add flux, fresh flux. You know, once flux kind of gets burned, it becomes not as effective. So fresh flux, ideally you want to clean the board and then apply fresh flux, but it's not always possible, or it's very time consuming. Sometimes the board is not that dirty. So I did see some bridging here. So my heater's stuck at 109 for some reason. Alright, here it goes. I don't know why I was not increasing temp, which I can tell because the solder joints are very not cooperative. Let me add some more solder. There we go. This should be plenty enough heat. That 154. All right. I had a giant blob of solder on my iron, but let's use it. We want these nice and even, nice and shiny. Also, whenever doing this, I like to hold down on coils, being that they won't get damaged. If you try to hold on an IC, it's a higher chance you can damage it. The coils are very rugged externally. Just rotate this back. Okay. Okay. Now let's clean all this again and give this another try. I'm actually going to put it on this clean cloth. All right, so one way you can clean this is while it's still warm. Drop a lot of alcohol in a toothbrush. Essentially scrub. I also put my alcohol bottle on coils. That way I can kind of hold the board down while still kind of dripping alcohol. Now it is a little riskier on ICs, but sometimes you can kind of tell when they're rugged, when they're like metallic looking. Sometimes you can just get away with not holding it down. All right, let's fold this over, kind of wipe it all down. I just can't wait till there's an actual legit heater for this. Maybe the X360 team will make one. A plate that we could just plug in. But please make one that supports the 5G antenna. If you guys need a board to kind of design it around, let me know. I'm willing to help. I just hate so many China tools do not take into consideration the USA model. So it's very frustrating. Okay, I'm gonna try to clean this. Yeah, I wish there was a heater, a universal heater with clamps that could accommodate for any board. All right, clean it pretty good. All right, so let's test this one more time. No shorts, so that's good. Let's prompt to boot and see if this is normal boot behavior. I'm gonna short the power button pin And yeah, look at that. We have normal boot consumption. So the short is gone and we should be good. Let's give this another Reball a try. Now I do wish I could just edit this all out, but oh well, you guys are gonna have to watch a really long video of this is like real life, kind of as real as you can get. I mean, a live stream would have been realer, but the problem with live streams is once you're live, you really can't stop. Like, you're just stuck there. Whereas here, I can record and pause and break and stuff like that. So a little less stressful. But I am showing you everything I'm doing, so you guys can kind of see, you know, what I do as a tech when there's a new device that comes in, you know, especially when you gotta experiment and troubleshoot and do things where you're not gonna have the tools for this model. You know, it's kind of the same thing we deal with when you just have, you know, random devices like Android phones. You don't have all the tools or anything for them. You just kind of go off of experience and stuff like that. So you guys can kind of see an insight of also my thought process on all this. So you guys appreciate that. Make sure you smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, you should subscribe, especially if you do phone repair. I do give out a lot of tips here on the channel as far as common issues, solutions. Alright, so now same thing as last time. Let's get this heated up and lined up as best we can until the solder starts melting. So this thing is about to reach temperature, is at 203. I'm gonna beep now. Oh, actually I have a 210. Alright, I'm getting a little wild here. Also a little, not impatient, but if you guys guess, we're trying to guess what time it is. It is right now 1:55 a.m. Pacific time. So tap yourselves in the back if you guessed that correctly. You deserve a prize. I should be doing a giveaway though. I'll do one soon. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you want to hear about a giveaway. I do get a lot of random tools for free that I don't really need, so I'll be giving away. I gotta figure out, you know, the best system for that. Let's see. Alright, I do see the smoke starting to come out. Although you guys probably can't see that on camera. So yeah, I can't wait till the stencil for the reballing of the sandwich comes out, the heater for it, or the plates for this model. Oh, and the eye socket jig, so we can test the sandwich without resoldering it. These are going to be all expensive tools, so keep that in mind. Don't break your phone. Don't drop it. Get a case. Get a screen protector if you can. Hopefully that'll help alleviate some of the impact damage if you do drop it. But who knows? I've had I've had phones come in with like OtterBox cases. Physically, it's perfect. Like, it looks clean. But once I open it up and get the sandwich out, like a million rip pads, and you know, it's still, that shock will still transfer to the phone. Maybe it would have been worse, but all right, I'm gonna try to squish this together. It does look aligned. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. And I do have, I'm gonna unplug it so I can rotate it all the way around. That way I can get access to this spot right here. And using some curved tweezers, you can grab SIM slot. If you don't have a SIM slot, then just get under the board as best you can. And then you could try to take it off as gently as possible. And then put it on your steel block. Now we'll have this link down below in the video description, as well as I have two of them actually, one off camera. Basically it's a really large 4x4 inch steel block that if you put anything on there, it will cool it down a lot faster. So I'm gonna transfer it over there and then we'll be back. All right, so it's been a few minutes. The board is now cool to the touch. Now let's do a visual inspection to see how it looks now. But from the looks of it so far, from what I can see, it does look way better. Well, not way better. It does look good. Now the real question is, does it boot? And does it work? Does it have signal, cellular signal? Or what happens exactly? I don't know. I don't even know. This is all eSIM. So I'm just trying to wipe this down. It does look flat here on this side. I'll probably just need to clean this later. It's alcohol and some scrubbing. There's a lot of flux here that kind of burnt on. Okay, so let's check for the sandwich quality. So you can see the solder joints look legit. There's no major gaps between the two layers. Here you can see the actual solder joints. It's all straight and solid. And then on this other side, also looks very, looks like it's good. So let's check to see if it actually will boot. So like before, we're gonna plug in the DT880, which is linked down below as well. Okay, no main short. Now let's prompt to boot with the power button key pin. Look at that, that looks normal. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this into the housing and test. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it just like that, just for now. Main goal is to see if it boots, see if it charges, and then I'll start plugging in everything else. Essentially, I don't want to add any extra variables before I do the basics. It turns on and, you know, let's let's try this. Plug it in, plug it into the PC. Look at that Apple logo. Now the real question is, does the cellular service work? I don't know. Let's see. Now it does say searching. Oh, look at that. It does work. I don't have that stuff plugged in. Cellular. Oh, look at that SIM pin. Oh, where'd it go? Did Apple find out I put a SIM slots? Oh man, it looks like I was pretty close. Set up cellular. It looked like the SIM slot was detected and then something happened and it went away. Now the question is, what exactly happened? I don't know. It was pretty cool I got it on camera. Alright, so maybe I gotta remove that eSIM, although it is stuck on this setup cellular screen. Let's see. There we go. Setup cellular. So it looks like cellular is working, otherwise I don't know what would have happened there. Oh well. Well, I'll keep experimenting, but for now it looks like cellular is working. I haven't activated this phone, so I'll do that later as well. But I mostly want to just cover the Reball process and see what happens. Trying to think, what else can I check for? Oh, let's dial star pound 06 pounds. We do get the IMEI pop up now, which didn't pop up on my live stream. So that means baseband is good, I believe. So yeah, I'll keep messing with it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash the like button if you like this video. Check out the links down below. I will link to a t-shirt like this one and some other cool tech related shirts. If you guys appreciate what we do here, check out my locals community as well. This is where I'll be posting some more information about the iPhone 14 Pro Max and just other general repairs that come here into my shop and how I solve them. So, and then lastly, I do want to announce that I am working with Louis Rossman for his repair wiki page. So if you are someone who can create guides, that teach how to solve more advanced level issues on any type of device, electronics, so laptops, MacBooks, iPhones, iPads, anything, video cards, desktops. If you guys have that knowledge and you want to get paid to create these guides, reach out to me. So I'll link that down below. You can reach out to me through my website and then we can go from there. So appreciate all you guys sticking around. Make sure you guys smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.